authorities now have at least one image to go on.
And I want to bring in retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Richard Frankel. Richard, how big is this development? How significant is this? And where does the investigation go from here?
Yeah, as Aaron just said, this is the biggest development of the investigation in that they do have pictures now that, while not confirming she was taken, but confirming that there was a masked individual immediately before the time that she went missing. So, as you look at this investigation, it would lead me to believe that this was the person, at least, that was involved in some capacity in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. And that's just, based upon my observation of what we're seeing. Also, it's hard to make out, is this a man? Is this a woman? Anything more about that. But you can see the eyes. You can see a little bit of the mouth. There are also programs out there, AI-generated techniques that are available to the FBI and to other law enforcement, that they may be able to start getting more information about who this person is. They're going to be taking that picture and they're going to be putting it through every single configuration that they have of every database they have to see if there's anything more that they can get from this picture. They're also going to be looking at the clothing. They're going to be looking at everything associated with these pictures to see if there's anything more that can take them to the next lead. But I think this is a great job by the FBI and by law enforcement. They did not just move on from prior leads. They kept working it just like they do on these major investigations, and they were able to come up with this evidence.
And Aaron, they're not calling this person a suspect, but the FBI director does say this person was armed.
And I don't see a specific weapon just looking in the small version of these images, Diane, but that's what the FBI director says. And in looking just at the mask and the gloves and the backpack, and my God, you think how terrified Nancy Guthrie may have been, assuming she confronted this individual in her home at about 2 o'clock in the morning after a game night and dinner with her family at her daughter Annie's house nearby. We know that the FBI has also been scrutinizing other cameras here at the house. We spotted them on the roof, looking at rooftop cameras that were part of Nancy Guthrie's home security system. So perhaps the hope is they'll be able to recover additional images in addition to the ones that appear to be from the doorbell camera, previously inaccessible to authorities for a variety of reasons, they say. But the hope is to try and build out a much larger profile of this individual. Even though they're not calling the person a suspect, it is the best images authorities and the public now have to go on, Diane.
And so many now hoping that they will lead them to Nancy Guthrie. Aaron, Brad, Richard, thank you all. And investigators are asking anyone with any information related to this case to call either one of those two tip lines on your screen. And we will have much more on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. And David will be back with the whole team from World News Tonight with more on this story later this evening. I'm Diane Macedo. Right now, we'll return to your regular programming. Have a great rest of the day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Who left him not once, but twice.
Oh, dear God. I know where he is.
To Moira.
All right, welcome to Live Impact News. You were just listening to a special report by ABC News, an update in the Nancy Guthrie case, and perhaps the biggest update we've seen so far since she has been missing since February 1st. She, of course, is the mother of Savannah Guthrie. Savannah Guthrie is a host on the Today Show. And this has been a story that has captivated the country. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, suddenly shows up missing. This was February 1st. She had gone out to dinner with some family members. This is in Pima County, Arizona. And then the next day, she didn't show up for church, and people got concerned. She was reported missing like midday on Sunday. And so far, it has just been a mystery as to what happened to her, and the case is being treated like a kidnapping. And now we see that the FBI has released this photo of a person that they're not calling a suspect, but someone that was captured on her doorbell camera. And as you could see, the man had a mask on, face completely covered except for his eyes. He had some sort of tool with him and a backpack, and it's possible that this is the person who is responsible for the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. So over the last several days, the family, they've been putting out videos pleading with a kidnapper, with the public, looking for any help in trying to solve this mystery and get their mother back home. So the latest video was from Savannah. She put that out yesterday. Let's take a look at that video. She said that they are in an hour of desperation.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt, because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers, and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
So there you have it. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help. That was a plea to the public, as well as who might have her, the kidnapper. And now, people really didn't know what to make of this case. All kinds of things on social media, people saying things that they have no business saying. But it certainly caught the interest, of the country, and just wondering what could have happened to her. We know that she has health issues. Apparently she has a pacemaker, and she's in need of medication. So there's that concern, and she has some mobility issues, but cognitively she is said to be as sharp as a tack. So that was the latest video put out yesterday by Savannah Guthrie, and now we see that there is a picture, an image released by the FBI. We're going to have that on a lot more later on 13 News Now at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. So you'll be able to see that. Again, the FBI not quite calling him a suspect, but there he is with the doorbell camera at Nancy Guthrie's house. So what is he doing? And, what has happened to her? So this is a story that we're going to continue to follow. and see where it leads. And, hoping for a happy ending. The family is really praying. A lot of people all over the country are praying and hoping that the outcome somehow can end up being a happy and a peaceful one. All right, so Naya, we're going to D.C., right? There are a lot of things going on in D.C. First of all, those monks, the Walk for Peace, that ended in D.C. Early this morning, and they're going to have a couple of activities there. So we hope to bring you some of that live when that happens. But for now, the House Homeland Security Committee, they have been holding a hearing all day. And this is on oversight of the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, Customs Border Patrol as well. And they have some officials with DHS who have been testifying. So let's listen in and see how that's going up in Washington, D.C.
Detain individuals to verify identity, but we haven't arrested or deported. No, sir.
Detain, arrest. Check it out. It's
Yes, sir.
the same thing, right? All right. What does an undocumented person look like or sound like? Does it look like Mr. Garbarino? Does it look like me?
Could look like anyone, sir.
Okay, well, how are you training your people? Because you've said and others have said, if they sound a certain way, they look a certain way, we're going to stop them. That was quoted by your people. What do you say to that?
Sir, what I say is that ICE does criminal targeted enforcement based on intelligence, and we don't use the color of skin or accents for that.
So the person who said that was wrong. Yes?
We'll let the
person said that was
gentleman,
wrong?
get that answer in writing. His time has expired. We will now recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Van Epps, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing and to our witnesses for testifying today. I want to commend the job the Trump administration and you gentlemen are doing to secure the border, enforce federal immigration laws, and keep dangerous criminals off our streets. Under President Biden, we saw unprecedented levels of illegal immigration, and many of those who came across the border were connected to transnational criminal organizations and have continued to commit crimes while in the United States. Despite doing everything they could to secure our borders, our brave CBP officers and Border Patrol agents were undermined at every turn by the Biden-Harris administration. Yet under President Trump, CBP, Border Patrol, and ICE have been empowered to do their job and fulfill their mission. As a representative from Tennessee, I can't help but compare operations in Minneapolis to those in Memphis. Federal law enforcement operations in Memphis have been successful by every standard and metric, with Memphis State Task Force arresting over 6,000 people. And while immigration enforcement isn't a stated goal of this task force, there is no question that it is also taking place. The successful operations are due in large part to the outstanding leadership of Governor Lee, who has worked closely with federal partners. Over the last year, the Trump administration has arrested numerous gang members, pedophiles, and drug traffickers in Memphis, with little fanfare or interference from activists. As a result of this cooperation, murders in Memphis are down by 47% since President Trump took office, and overall violent crime is down by 30%. In May of last year, ICE enforcement and removal operations worked with Tennessee Highway Patrol and DHS components to successfully arrest 196 criminal illegal aliens across the greater Nashville area. I am grateful for the role the members of the Tennessee Highway Patrol played in that operation, and their cooperation has made my district significantly safer. Since then, over 56 partnering agencies are working together alongside ICE to keep Tennesseans safe. ICE has carefully highlighted the worst of the worst criminal aliens it has arrested. Today, I will be entering into the record nearly 120 illegal aliens that have been arrested in Nashville, with rap sheets ranging from identity theft to drug smuggling, larceny to arson, and robbery to rape. Federal agents are executing their mission to defend American citizens and protect our communities. The major challenge we've seen in Minneapolis and similar cities are directly caused by sanctuary city policies and the refusal of local leaders to enforce the law, preventing local law enforcement from working with ICE. This leaves ICE and others unsupported, having to manage protesters and domestic friction in addition to their actual mission of enforcing immigration law. Local law enforcement is crucial to facilitate the mission. Director Lyons, contrast ICE's experience in Minneapolis with other cities around the country, including Memphis and others, that have agreements to work with ICE. What can successful partnerships with local law enforcement and other partners look like?
Sir, thank you. I would say that Memphis is a prime example, and I have to, give credit to the U.S. Marshal Service that's leading that operation. Homeland Security investigation agents are out there every day with the men and women of Tennessee Highway Patrol, Memphis Police Department, and the reduction in crime has been significant. But if you look across the country, almost in every state, we do have cooperative jurisdictions. If you look at Texas, we have outstanding cooperation. You don't see any riots or anything like that. You see side-by-side law enforcement working together as it would be. If you look at the state of Florida, state of Oklahoma, state of Louisiana, all across the nation, we do have that. And what it is public safety.
Thank you. Next, I want to commend the Trump administration for locking down our southern border. A year ago, it was a highway for illegal aliens and illicit materials. Today, it is secure and clear.
All right, so that hearing has been going on for most of the day. We'll try to check back in with that in a little while, the oversight over the Department of Homeland Security. Want to switch over really quickly to another part of Washington, D.C., where the 19 Buddhist monks, they have arrived in D.C. They were on that 2,300-mile walk for peace, to promote healing and unity and compassion. They are expected to stop at the National Cathedral, and you can see that there are, looks like hundreds of people there greeting them. I'm going to plug in my sound here, see if we hear something. Escorted by the police. They're going to have a couple of activities in Washington, D.C. And the leader of this group, he says, my hope is when this walk ends that the people we met will continue practicing mindfulness and finding peace. And it's been a journey. We have followed them, when they left Texas. We followed them as they came through North Carolina, and have been moved by the emotion that people have shown just in being able to greet them in various cities. And one lady we saw yesterday, very, very emotional, because you think about everything that's going on in the country right now. There's a lot of conflicts. There's a lot of political divide. And so this comes at a really good time. It comes at a time where a lot of people feel like we need this. We need this to sort of uplift our spirits and to think about what's bigger than ourselves, and that is peace and happiness and that kind of thing. Okay, so they spent the night at Marymount University in Arlington. They crossed over the Chain Bridge into D.C. That was about 8 o'clock this morning. And so they also had a stop at American University where like 3,500 people were there to greet them. That was their first public stop in Washington. Now, while they are at the Capitol, something that they plan on doing, they want to submit a request to lawmakers to declare Buddha's birthday a national holiday. Now, that's not the purpose of why they did this. It's not like, hey, we're going to D.C. to try to get lawmakers to do this. That's just part of something that they want to do. It's just part of the presentation. So it's been a good thing. It's been, I think, a peaceful journey. They did run into some problems. Back in Texas, one of their escort vehicles was actually struck by another vehicle, and 2 of the monks were injured, one of whom was severely injured and had to have a leg amputated. He later rejoined the group in a wheelchair, if you can imagine that. All right, so we're going to continue to follow that. We'll try to bring that back to you in a little while if they speak or if they have some sort of special ceremony at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. And hopefully you have followed the journey yourself, and maybe you feel a little bit more peaceful today knowing that went on, and kind of sharing in that sentiment. All right, so Naya, where are we going to go? We're going to go back to D.C. We're still in D.C. and follow this hearing again with the Department of Homeland Security, because testifying, when we dropped off, it was Mr. Lyons. Okay, I'm told I need to toss to a break. But Mr. Lyons was testifying, and he is the acting director of ICE. So we'll go back to that, but for now, let's take a quick break. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News on this Tuesday, where there is a lot going on. We've already talked about an update with the Nancy Guthrie case, where they have released a photo of a possible suspect, a man in a mask that was captured on the doorbell camera of Nancy Guthrie's home. She is the 84-year-old woman who's been missing since February 1st, and she is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, who is a host on the Today Show. And we visited the monks who have arrived in D.C., ending their 2,300-mile walk for peace. We're going to keep monitoring that situation because they're supposed to have a special prayer and reflection at the National Cathedral. And we're going to try to bring you that live. Okay, but for now, let's go back to Capitol Hill, where the House Homeland Security Committee is holding a hearing today where they are questioning the head of ICE and some other Department of Homeland Security officials. This is all after so much has gone on with the ICE crackdown, particularly in Minneapolis, where 2 American citizens were shot and killed by ICE agents in January. So let's go and listen to more of that hearing, Mr. Thompson, Congressman Thompson, questioning some of the witnesses right now.
Family. Number 2, ABC 7 Chicago article that describes how ICE's warrantless arrests in Chicago has been ruled unlawful by a federal judge. And third, a ProPublica article documenting how immigration agents are using banned chokeholds and other moves that can cut off breathing.
Without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to insert in the record the following articles. A CBS News article that states that contrary to the administration's claim, only 14% of those arrested by ICE had violent criminal records. An NPR story about a DHS memo that says ICE can enter people's home without a judicial warrant, which has alarmed members on both sides of the aisle. An article from the Marshall Project that alleges that there are thousands of kids in detention, many for longer than the court-prescribed limit. An article from The Independent about a sick 5-year-old, Lame Ramos, asking for his mom in a detention center, which rebuts testimony we heard today that ICE was taking good care of him. A report from the Center for Election Innovation and Research updated this month that found that non-citizen voting is rare and allegations of the practice are a result of misunderstandings or fabrication. An article from the AP, which highlights that federal authorities are monitoring and tracking individuals who criticize immigration enforcement operations. A report from the Brennan Center titled, ICE Wants to Go After the Sinners as Well as Immigrants. A report from The Guardian that describes the terrible condition in ICE facilities and that ICE denied urgent medical care to a 10-year-old.
Without objection. I want to thank, Gentleman kneels back. I want to thank the members, or the witnesses for being here tonight, and all the members for their questions. Members of the committee may have some additional questions for the witnesses, and we ask that the witnesses to respond to these in writing. Pursuant to Committee Rule 7E, the hearing record will be held open for 10 days. I want to let the audience know that please still be seated while the witnesses and their teams leave. Without objection, this committee stands adjourned.
All right, so there you have it. That hearing taking a recess there in Washington, D.C. Department of Homeland Security being questioned today. This is a hearing that started about 10 o'clock this morning. So quickly want to go again to another part of Washington, D.C. at the National Cathedral. That's where the 19 Buddhist monks are gathered. There is a large crowd there. They are having an interfaith welcome at the west front of the cathedral and some moments of reflection and prayer. And we're going to see if we can hear what's going on there. So let's take that really quickly. Yeah. Okay, it appears we do not have any sound from that event, but that is at the National Cathedral, where the monks were greeted by, you can see that large group of people. This was a walk for peace that really captivated the country for the past few weeks. Actually a few months that they've been doing this since they left Fort Worth, Texas, because it was 2,300 miles. They walked for peace to promote healing, unity, compassion, and there they are now at the end at the National Cathedral for a few moments of reflection and prayer. And as you can see, this has been an event that so many people have wanted to have some part in. So there's no mystery that you have that large crowd of people there in the cold today in Washington, D.C. So yeah, we'll probably have more on this coming up on 13 News Now at 4, 5, and 6, and our news later on this evening. The Walk for Peace coming to a very nice end there in Washington, D.C. All right, now, since we were talking about ICE and the hearing that was going on in Washington, D.C., we want to flip over to Minneapolis or to Minnesota, because as you know, that's where that surge has been going on in Minneapolis for some time. That's where the 2 U.S. citizens were killed by ICE agents, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. So Governor Tim Walz held a news conference today to talk about the economic impact of this ICE search, because apparently since this has been going on, the state of Minnesota, they're saying that they have lost millions of dollars in revenue because of the surge. So let's listen to some of that news conference now.
Janet, I actually have another feed of the monks if you want to check and see if this is working.
Okay, wait, good news. We have another feed of the monks at the National Cathedral, so we do have sound. So let's go to that because we want to hear what they have to say.
Peace. This is the first time to me that we are working together, we are walking together on this path to find peace for ourselves, to share that to our nation and the world. For me, this is the moment where I'll be remembered for the rest of my life. And I hope you do the same. Peace is something that we've been looking for so long. Peace is something that we are seeking for so many years, and yet we still not find it. We cannot find it. It's been with us. It never left us. It's just that we cannot see it. You have locked it and put them in the box, and you have left it somewhere. You've forgotten it. We are not walking from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. to bring you any peace, but to raise the awareness of peace so that you can unlock that box and free it. Let peace bloom and flourish among all of us throughout this nation and the world, so that this world can become the better place for all beings to live. And of course, to free peace, to unlock that box, we're supposed to have a key, and we must have that key to unlock it. And that key is mindfulness. It's not about Buddhism. Mindfulness is for all beings. Mindfulness is within our breath. We live with each and every breath going in and out. Without this breath, we die. So mindfulness within our breath is for all human beings. It's because this is something that we naturally have since we born into our mother's womb. And for that reason, we must practice mindfulness. It's very simple. All we need to do is just come back within. This is the moment in front of me. I see thousands and thousands of people here, that you actually let go of everything to come here to join this mission together. This is the moment where you slow down, the moment where you stop from doing everything else, just for one thing together here: peace. Therefore, we wouldn't want to waste our time and our energy coming out here and then going home with sadness and anxiety, stress. Instead, we should come home with joy and peace. To do that, let us all do one thing together. Let's put our left hand over our heart, the right hand on top of our left hand, by your chest, by your heart. Gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. And one more. Now feel in each and every heartbeat within your heart. Feel it. Be mindful on each and every beat. Pay fully attention to it. Sound is just a sound. Acknowledge that sound as sound, 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 to remind us to come back within, to feel our heartbeat. Stay focused. Thank you. How you feel? Relax? I hope you are. Okay. Without feeling your heartbeat, there's a problem. Now that we had a chance to come back within, to look at our heart, to feel it, this is the time where you give yourself some love. That inner child has been cried and asking for help for so long, and yet we still abandon it, ignoring it. This is the moment, this is the time where we had some moments, a minute to come back, to feel that inner child, give it some love. We've been taking care of this outer body, which is this physical body, for a lot too much. Way too much. While our inner body is crying every single day, asking for help, and is shrinking every day, which is our mind. It's keep on shrinking and shrinking, while this body is growing and growing. For that reasons, we suffer. For that reasons, we barely have a moment for ourselves, because we are way too busy chasing the things outside, way too busy chasing the materials and the outside world. We have one thing, we want more things. When we have more things, we want a lot more on top of that. And that is why we spin in with the world. We spin ourselves. When we are not mindful, anything happen, anything the world throw into us, we suffer, we react. When you react, within that heart, you cannot feel those heartbeat, but instead, you feel burning. That heart is burning up. The heat is rising from the chest, from our chest, going up to the top of our head. And we let it burn it all. We let it burn all. Whatever we have, we burn it all because of that anger and hatred. And everything start out just a single word from the strangers, or a single word from our family members and our loved ones, or our friends. Just one thing, one minor thing could trigger us, and then we jump, and then we burn ourselves. Human beings, we deserve better. We don't have to go through all this, even though it's the nature of this world. The nature of our mind is always heading out there and collect everything to our mind and record it, keep it in there just like a hard drive. Anything we key in into that keyboard is recorded into the hard drive. Our mind is the same. Anything you talk, anything you see, you hear, you taste, you smell, you touch, is recorded deeply into our mind. And we live with all those every single day. And thoughts, it's always popping up. It's rising and rising every second. Within 1 second, there's millions and millions of thoughts popping up. It's just that we cannot catch it, because our monkey mind is ready to jump. What is a monkey mind? The monkey mind is when our thoughts pop up, we jump right to it. We chase after it. The monkey cannot stay at one place. The habit is to jump here and there, go here and there, grab this and that. Just like the monkey go into the coin field, grab all those coins, and then when the monkey got out of that field, the whole field are damaged, but only 1 or 2 coins on his hand. Our mind is the same. We collect everything outside, from the outside, surround us. We collect all those, and at the end, we only hold sufferings. Nothing else. Happiness, peace, is something that is just temporary feeling that we ever have. And of course, our family members, our friends, our loved one always bring us some gifts, something to make us happy, and all those are just temporary. While peace is something that you can practice to have it the longest time if you know how to manage your emotion, your feelings. It comes to the mindfulness practicing again. Earlier when we practiced to feel our heartbeat, I didn't guide you all to practice on the breathing, but instead the heartbeat. We can feel each and every heartbeat if we pay full attention to it. Is that right? While we are feeling our heartbeat, how many of us can stay focused within that heartbeat without the mind wandering around? Please raise your hand. Okay, there's only less than 10 people out of thousands and thousands of people here, right? Do you know why? That's the mind, the monkey. That's the monkey when we just stay focused here, but that sound out there is pulling us off track. Anything that we encounter today, in the mornings up until now, is pulling us off track. Anything that is strong within our thought is pulling us off track. While you are feeling your heartbeat, this concentration is not strong enough yet. When it's not strong enough, anything else out there stronger, it will pull our mind off from this. That is why we still cannot stay focused within our heartbeat. But imagine, if we practice every day to feel our heartbeat, if we practice every day to see our breath going in and out with mindfulness, with awareness, how wonderful our life is. It's because of unmindful, that is why we always react the way we react. When somebody says something, we react right away, and that is when we suffer. And to be honest with you, toxic people a lot out there. And the more you react, the more they love it. When you react, they love it. They will go to the next person and do the same thing. And they go enjoy their life while we stand there and cry and then suffer. So don't react. If you keep on reacting, your life will go back to the old days and we going to suffer until we die. There's a lot of things better for us to do. A lot of things that is much more, is way better for us to do, which is do something for ourselves, to love yourself more. When you love yourself means you will not put yourself in danger.
All right, very nice. The monks there at the National Cathedral with some moments of reflection and prayer and talking about the purpose of this walk, all about peace. He said some really profound things, says that, we've been looking so long for peace, something that we cannot find, something that we have been searching for, but it never left us. It's just that we can't see it, that we have it locked in a box somewhere, and that it's time for us to unlock that box and let peace bloom and let peace flourish. And did you get the exercise that he had you do with the left hand on the heart, and then your right hand over, and you close your eyes and you take several breaths and you listen to your heartbeat? Just listen to your heartbeat and feel it. Just a nice message. He said that our body on the inside is crying for help as we, work to take care of, our outside appearance, but we kind of neglect our inside body. that we're not mindful enough. So that was just a really good message, and I think it meant a lot to a lot of people over the last few months that they have been doing this walk, starting in Fort Worth, Texas, and ending in Washington, D.C., came through Virginia, was at the Capitol in Richmond. The Buddhist monks, 19 of them, and so we appreciate the peace and the message that they're bringing to not only the country, but to the entire world. Now, the message from the White House. Let's go to Washington, D.C. still, and listen to Caroline Leavitt. She is on the podium, and she is the spokesperson for the White House.
From no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security to auto loan interest deductions on new American-made vehicles, plus increases to the standard deduction in child tax credit, more money is flowing back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. We're already hearing from everyday Americans across the country who are reporting substantial tax savings thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, which every single Democrat in Congress voted against. AMAC, which represents millions of Americans, has heard directly from more than their 1,000 members already about how the Trump tax cuts are easing cost of living concerns. I wanted to share a few of those powerful responses with you today. This one comes from Dean and Wendy in Wisconsin, who said, quote, instead of paying out $3,700 last year, we got back $2,500 in refunds this year. This is huge for our family. Steve from California said, quote, the new senior citizen deduction is a tremendous relief and has given us peace of mind and the freedom to truly enjoy the retirement years we worked so hard for. Eric from Nevada said, as a senior, no tax on Social Security helps me tremendously. The no tax on tips helps my daughter-in-law as a waitress. The no tax on overtime helps my son, who works constantly. Our family savings from the One Big Beautiful Bill could total even more than $5,000. We love the Trump tax cuts. These are just a few positive examples of the everyday Americans that President Trump's tax cuts are uplifting. We'd love to hear more from the American people across the country who are benefiting from the Working Families tax cuts. The White House is also pleased to share that parents across the country can now officially apply to open a Trump account for their child. In order to apply, parents can visit trumpaccounts.gov and fill out the IRS form 4547. These Trump accounts are special investment accounts aimed at providing American children with a jump start on building wealth for life. They have all the tax advantages as a traditional IRA account, but are specifically tailored to build wealth the moment a child is born. Thanks to President Trump, every child born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028 is eligible to receive $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury to fund their account. Parents, guardians, and even nonprofits can then contribute up to $5,000 per year. Employers can also contribute up to $2,500 per year per employee. President Trump believes there is no better investment than investing in our nation's children. If you are a parent who maximizes contributions to your child's Trump account, its projected value could reach nearly $1.1 million by the time your child turns 28 years old, based on average historical stock market returns. Safe to say, the Trump accounts will give a substantial head start to position the next generation for a brighter future. And with the stock market exploding under President Trump's pro-growth policies, there has never been a better time to sign up for an investment account like this. The Dow Jones just shattered 50,000 for the first time ever on Friday, and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ continue smashing record after record. So with President Trump in charge, Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming once again, and these new Trump accounts for America's kids will boom too. So with that, once again, every parent should go to trumpaccounts.gov today, and I'm going to put it on my own personal to-do list to sign up for one as well. With that, I will take your questions. Caroline Downey from the National Review is here. Thank you for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you for having me. On the criticism that immigration enforcement has become arbitrary or not particularly prioritizing, Democrats have been circulating the statistic that only 14% of illegal aliens arrested under this administration are violent criminals, but we know that in deep blue cities with progressive district attorneys, it's common to plead down serious violent crimes into less serious offenses, which could be distorting those numbers. So given that backdrop, does the administration still stand by the messaging that you're targeting the worst of the worst, and does this prevailing narrative tell the whole story?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Caroline. I've seen this CBS report floating around. There's a lot of liberal talking heads and pundits and Democrat elected politicians who think that this single story and these statistics and the way they are painted is somehow a shot at this administration. It is not, and let me correct the record. Number one, the Trump administration has been clear from day one that any illegal alien present in this country is subject to deportation. However, the priority, of course, is going after the convicted criminals, the worst of the worst, the murderers, the pedophiles, the rapists in this country. Interestingly, in the CBS story, what the Democrat talking heads on television are not saying is this line. Nearly 60% of ICE arrestees over the past year had criminal charges or convictions. And among that population, the majority of the criminal charges or convictions are for nonviolent crimes. Oh, well, what are nonviolent crimes, you ask? This has coincided with what DHS has been saying all along, that approximately 70% of illegal aliens arrested under President Trump have pending criminal charges and or prior convictions. And these so-called nonviolent crimes, drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, and human smuggling, just to name a few. So just because a crime is not violent in nature doesn't mean that crime is victimless. And I can guarantee every single person who is out there on television right now pointing to these statistics that were taken out of context by CBS News would not want an illegal alien convicted of the distribution of child porn or fraud or DUI living in your community. So the Trump administration will continue our focus on deporting all illegal aliens present in our country with a focus on the worst of the worst criminals. Thank you for being here. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you. And thank you for the update on our colleague Savannah Guthrie's mother. Is there anything more you can share? You said the president was reviewing that surveillance footage. What was his initial reaction when seeing those disturbing images? And does he believe that that suspect acted alone?
I haven't talked to him specifically about the second point on whether the suspect acted alone or not, so I don't want to weigh in on the president's thinking on that. His initial reaction, of course, as all Americans, is just pure disgust. And again, it's heartbreaking to see now this footage really bring to life a story we've all been reading about. And again, we're just praying for the safety of Nancy Guthrie and that she will return home soon. And the president directed me to please encourage all Americans with any information to call the FBI. And we hope that this case will come to a positive resolution as soon as possible.
We, of course, have a lot to talk about and a completely separate topic. I was hoping you can clarify something that's come up over the last several days, again, regarding a separate topic in Epstein files. According to newly released files, the president had a conversation with the Palm Beach police chief in the early 2000s, according to the police chief in 2019. The president has gone on record before, and he's told reporters that he said that that he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. During this conversation with the police chief, however, he did say, according to this recounting of it, that thank goodness you're stopping him. He also called Ghislaine Maxwell evil. So my two questions are, did that conversation with the Palm Beach police chief happen? And can you explain the discrepancy?
What I will say is that the president has always remained consistent and that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club at Mar-a-Lago because, frankly, Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. And unlike many other people who are named in these files, President Trump cut off his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was honest and transparent about that for years and years. And so I think what the president has said all along has always remained true. And the release of more than 3 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous, disgusting crimes just shows the level of transparency that this president and administration has committed to in bringing these files to light.
But did he call the chief in 2006? Caroline, did he call the chief?
Look, it was a phone call that may or may not have happened in 2006. I don't know the answer to that question. What I'm telling you is that what President Trump has always said is that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club because Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, and that remains true. And this call, if it did happen, corroborates exactly what President Trump has said from the beginning. And I'm sure many of you, when you read that alleged FBI report, probably thought to yourself, wow, this really cracks our narrative that we've been trying to push about this president for many years. So we're moving on from that. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. NBC reported that there's some hesitation among House Republicans on adding absentee ballot restrictions into the SAVE Act. Can you explain what the hesitation is among House Republicans and also just provide a status of negotiations with Congress on the legislation?
Sure. I can't speak for House Republicans, Reagan. I can obviously speak for the president, who is quite possibly the strongest supporter of the Save America Act, which, as you know, would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would require proof of identification, a photo identification before casting a ballot. And it would also ensure that there are exceptions made. I think that's what you're alluding to with these conversations with House Republicans for reasonable requests, of course, for our military, for individuals who are disabled and cannot make it to the polls. Those are reasonable, common sense things that I believe House Republicans are discussing amongst themselves. But as for the president, he's been very clear. He wants House Republicans and Democrats, too, if they were politically wise, to pass this legislation, for the Senate to pass it, to send it to the president's desk so it can be signed into law.
Follow-up. I'm wondering when the last time the president spoke to Leader Thune was and if he discussed using the standing filibuster to pass legislation.
The president has given his position on the standing filibuster. As for his most recent conversation with Leader Thune, frankly, I'm not sure. I do know they speak very frequently. The president's in constant communication with both Leader Thune and the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Stephen, I see we switched up our seating chart. Your direct line of sight now. Congratulations.
Response Association for recognizing the New York Post's reach. I've got two questions for you, one about the Guthrie case and then another about infrastructure. On the Guthrie case, does President Trump have a warning to the culprits here about what would happen to them, what federal consequences they would face if they do not release Nancy Guthrie unharmed?
I think anyone who was involved in this depraved crime, this abduction, of course, we want to be seen held to the fullest extent of the law possible.
Infrastructure, can you explain why President Trump asked Chuck Schumer to help him rename Penn Station and Dulles Airport after himself? Why is he interested in having his name on those two buildings? And why are the Gateway Tunnel funds the proper point of pressure to get that to happen?
To your first question about the renaming, why not? It was something the president floated in his conversation with Chuck Schumer. As for the funding, the president has addressed that separately himself. Danny.
Thanks. Posted and then deleted a tweet about the Armenian genocide. And then last week, President Trump's Truth Social account posted and then deleted a racist video about the Obamas. And the White House again blamed that on a staffer. I wanted to ask you, does the White House have a social media problem at the moment? Do you have an auto-posting problem that's leading to these mistakes?
No. As for the Armenian tweet that you're referring to, I would just refer you back to the White House's message that was issued on Armenian Remembrance Day, and there's been no change of policy at this time. Mary?
Thanks, Caroline. When the president goes to Beijing in the spring, does he have plans to try and advocate on behalf of Jimmy Lai, who was just sentenced to 20 years yesterday?
This is something I've heard the president advocate for both publicly and privately. I had the honor of being in that meeting with President Trump and President Xi in South Korea that took place, and this was brought up by the president himself. It is important to him, and he looks forward to visiting China in April. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. So some Republican lawmakers from Nebraska have said they're worried that the Argentinian beef executive order will sideline some American ranchers. How will the Trump administration make sure prices go down for consumers without harming those ranchers?
Of course. Well, both things can happen at the same time. That's the president's belief. He wants to see prices come down. In fact, I just overheard him on the phone with Secretary Rollins. They were talking about something different, but he's always saying we got to make sure that prices continue to come down. As you know, Secretary Rollins successfully did that with respect to egg prices. Beef prices are coming down slightly, and the president wants to see that continue. He believes that a minor import to the country with cattle might be a short-term solution with respect to bringing down prices. But of course, protecting our American cattle and rancher industry is a priority for the president, and he's in touch with those stakeholders. We've had them here at the White House a few times in recent months to discuss this issue directly. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block the new Gordie Howe Bridge, which would connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada. It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind as it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first, and so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier today. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just posted a photo of herself signing the last contract to build the border wall between Laredo, Del Rio, and Big Bend, Texas, among reports that construction had stalled. Is the president satisfied with the pace of construction?
The president wants to make sure that the full border wall is built as quickly as possible, of course. I know this is a priority for him dating back to 2016, and so absolutely he wants to ensure that the border wall is built under budget and ahead of schedule is how President Trump likes to view building projects, and that includes the border wall.
Satisfied with the pace of construction thus far?
I think the president is never satisfied. He always wants to ensure that things are moving along as quickly as possible, but I know Secretary Noem is on it, and she's doing a great job.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
Charlie.
On the Nancy Guthrie case, is the president satisfied with the federal and local investigation so far? And has there been any more contact from the White House or the president with the family?
I don't think anybody will be satisfied until this case is brought to a close and until Nancy Guthrie is returned home safely with her loved ones.
About the White House contacts, has the president contacted the family since?
Not since that initial phone call. Sure, Tamara.
Thank you. The National Governors Association is removing a meeting with President Trump from his agenda because only Republicans were invited. Is the White House reconsidering inviting Democrats, or do you think Republicans are still going to show up? Like, where does that stand now?
No, look, I just spoke with the president about this. It is a dinner at the White House. It's the people's house. It's also the president's home, and so he can invite whomever he wants to dinners and events here at the White House. I believe Governor Moore was invited last year, and he did not show up to the dinner last year. Nobody reported on it, but
All right, so there you have it, the White House press briefing with Caroline Leavitt, touching on a number of different topics, beginning with some of the Trump tax cuts and the Trump accounts for children. She talked about that, as well as the ICE arrests and the discrepancy between what one report has said that fewer than 14% of those arrested by ICE in Trump's first year had violent criminal records. She's saying that 60% have records or convictions, and that many of those crimes, while they may not be listed as violent crimes, they are bad crimes, such as like the distribution of child pornography. Also talked about the Nancy Guthrie case, a number of different topics that she touched on there. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more. And welcome back to Live Impact News. So, have you been outside today? Have you gone out there and noticed that it is so much warmer than what we have been experiencing? We have been locked in some really, really cold weather this month and last month. So we want to talk more about that. We have meteorologist Evan Stewart in the studio right now. Everybody give him a hand.
Yeah, well, thank you. You can't give me credit for the good weather because then I have to take blame for the bad.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. I mean, it's actually pretty nice outside now.
Yeah, lovely. So what's the high? What's the temperature right now?
Well, right now we're sitting at 57 degrees.
57.
I know. Some spots are already into the low 60s back inland away from the water. People who are not seeing that, the eastern shore. In the 40s up there. And, that's because of the bay and the ocean. The water is so cold. Just keeps the eastern shore colder. But again, 57, Norfolk 57, and Chesapeake 59. Suffolk 54, Hampton, Newport News, Williamsburg 61, Emporia, Roanoke Rapids, and Edenton. It's a heat wave out there, Janet.
That is a heat wave compared to what we've been dealing with. Yeah.
That's right. We have to go all the way back to January 22nd.
Okay.
That's when we hit 60 degrees. And ever since then.
What was I doing that day?
Yeah.
I
don't know. We didn't call out that day, but we should have.
Yeah.
We should have. Well, yeah, you can see, pretty much we were in the 30s, 20s and 30s. A few days in there, we hit 40.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely are long overdue for this warmer
really
weather.
are.
And again, we're up to 57 now.
That's nice. Okay, so how long is that going to last?
It's not going to stick around very long, of course. We have, lots of sunshine out there this afternoon, and we have high pressure that's located just off towards our south. As a matter of fact, we have a little bit of a warm front down towards our south, and that's sort of what's helped warm things up just a little bit in the area. And we're seeing these winds come in out of the south and southwest, kind of like that. And that's what's been warming us up across the area. But again, as we said, it's not going to last. As we look off towards the west, we've got a little bit of a system out there and a cold front that's going to slide through. And that is going to give us a drop in temperatures for the rest of the week. We're also going to see a few showers later tonight, closer to sunrise tomorrow morning. We'll see some showers to start the day on Wednesday, and then that cooler air will continue as we go into Thursday and Friday. And then, of course, the weekend, Valentine's Day weekend, we are looking at temperatures that are going to be back up near 50 degrees. So it's not going to be too cold on Saturday, but by Sunday, we will see some rain moving in. So this is the latest 7-day forecast.
Yeah. Okay, a little rain on Sunday, but look at those 350s in a row. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, and 49 on Saturday, Valentine's Day. So, not as cold as it has been. So we do have some warmer weather coming in. But I do want to kind of talk about that chance of rain coming up later tonight and tomorrow and sort of time it out here with Futurecast. So if anybody has plans, later tonight and tomorrow, know when we'll see those best chances for some rain moving in. So this evening, clear, temperatures in the 40s. Notice a couple of showers in the pre-dawn hours. This is around 3 a.m. And temperatures actually will go up a little bit tonight. It's by early tomorrow morning, we're in the 50s again. But that cold front is going to slide through. We're going to see some showers scattered around. So that takes us here through about 6 o'clock, and we'll just kind of walk you here through about midday. And notice most of the showers will be pushing down into North Carolina. And as the clouds clear and the winds switch around towards the north, temperatures will drop into the afternoon.
Yeah,
so we'll be into the 40s by
hold on.
By this time tomorrow, and then low 40s as we get into Thursday and Friday.
Okay. All right. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Because normal is what, around 50, right?
53 is our normal high.
53, and it is February. We're coming up on what, mid-February, February 10th.
That's right. So February 10th.
Hey, and we're gaining daylight. I'm noticing that.
Yeah, we gain about 2 minutes a day. Usually our sunrise is about a minute earlier and our sunset is about a minute later. So we are gaining about 2 minutes of sunlight a day.
Okay, so it's still mid-February. I want to say that we might be done with all that really cold weather, but I don't think I can say that. No one can say that, right?
No, and I don't think we are. Let's see what the latest 8-14 day outlook is from the Weather Prediction Center. And so let's see, we'll get there. It is showing 18th through 24th a little bit above normal for much of the eastern two-thirds of the country. Of course, all the warm weather had been back across the west coast, and now it's going to be sliding eastward, and that's sort of what we've seen this pattern change. There were some models that were showing, late towards the end of February, another push of some colder air. But that was just one or two. Some of the others were not supporting that, so that's why we've got, it looks like here at least the 8 to 14 day that we're going to average above normal.
Okay, well that looks good, and then not March is knocking on the door.
Yes, it is hard to believe here.
Yeah, hard to believe already. March is going to come in like a little lamb.
Yes, we hope so.
We hope so.
A warm little lamb in a good fleece.
Yeah. Okay, Evan, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We always love having you on a nice day. It's been a little rocky lately, but this is nice to have you in just to talk about, beautiful weather.
And it's nice to be able to talk about beautiful weather. Yes, it's been a long couple of weeks, and now we are looking, other than the rain this weekend and Sunday, might be one of the better days to spend indoors again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So if you get some random hugs today, you'll know why.
Yes.
Okay.
For the nice weather.
All right. So Naya, are we going to break before we hit the next thing? We have to take these breaks now. So we'll be right back and with more. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. I want to go back to something that I mentioned earlier in this particular session, and that is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz held a news conference today to talk about the economic impact of the ICE crackdown in his state. And at least one official in the state says that $100 million in lost revenue since the crackdown began. And this comes from businesses in the area closing down, or maybe they had some employees that might have been arrested and they were unable to operate. So let's listen to what Governor Walz had to say about sort of this version of what happens when ICE cracks down. Apparently, unfortunately, we do not have sound with that. We'll try to check that out and maybe get to that a little bit later if we can, but there's obviously an audio problem. So we're going to head to Los Angeles now. You may have heard about the Meta trial that's going on. This is Meta being Instagram's parent company and Google's YouTube. They are facing claims that their platforms deliberately addict and harm children. So yesterday this trial started, and during opening statements, the attorney for the plaintiffs, he came out and he said, this is a case as easy as ABC. ABC standing for Addicting the Brains of Children. And he's calling Meta and Google two of the richest corporations in history that have engineered addiction in children's brains. Interesting case. Let's go out to LA and let's take a listen to that trial.
I found and I looked for things to do in Mexico, and it helped with that. But with that, it can also be really bad, because if I look at a violent video, a sexual video, eating disorders, kind of the bad content, and it notices that I looked at it, I'm gonna get a fire hose of it. And if you're a kid, right, where you're like just scrolling, and somebody puts a fire hose to your face of content that makes you feel bad about your body, that talks about sexuality in degrading ways, that shows graphically violent stuff, it's gonna do things to you, right? And so what you do, right, if
Objection, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Virgin on 701. There's a narrative response about opinion based on testing.
He's talking about his experience at Meta in an area within his responsibility.
All right, overruled.
Okay.
You may continue, Mr. Behar.
Thank you. So the thing about this, right, is that as you build these things, for example, new ways of connecting people to each other, which is something that the growth team did, you see firsthand, you might be introducing bad people to your kid. I mean, that's just what happens. And so then the safety team's job within that is to help identify it and stop that. And so that's why it's absolutely critical that the safety team is able to ideate and deploy things that actually reduce harm, right? And you, because in order to, I'll stop there.
And you mentioned in the context of your answer, introducing kids to bad people. How does the algorithm play a role in that?
Yeah, so an example of that I lived through was when my daughter created a public account. She loves cars. She loves wrenching in cars. We did it together, and it became a passion for her. So she would post videos of the engine she was working on and talking about cars and car adventures. And that videos would get delivered to people that then would come in and comment on her body, would send her messages, extremely inappropriate, like sexual propositions. And so what was happening there is the way that the stuff that she was making got pushed out to people that then did unwanted sexual advances, inappropriate contact, harassment. And that was not about the content, but it's about the product design that takes something a kid makes and pushes it out to people that then might do harm or would do harm. And I saw a lot of that, and it's unfortunately tragically common.
And based on your experience at Meta, how is it that your daughter's video about cars was ending up being pushed out to people who sent her sexual messages?
Yeah, one of the things that I sort of realized is an issue with the way these things are built is kind of inappropriate publication distribution, right? And so the product is very good at connecting people with interests. And if your interest is little girls, it will be really good at connecting you with little girls. And so, because in some pictures my daughter would be in it, then it would be connected to men who then would be commenting on her body, even though this is, it's her post, right? That should be kind of a safe space for her if she's posting about a car or an engine that she's worked on. and then somebody says something misogynistic or sexist or sexually suggestive or all these other things. And so what happens is that she makes this thing, and her intended audience is people who like cars and appreciate what she's doing. But what the algorithm does is it publishes that to so many people, and then when the bad people show up, the important thing here is she didn't have a tool to say no, that she tried to report it. Every time she reported, she was told, no, it's not an issue. Can't report it. Until she gets, there is a normalizing effect that if you walk into a supermarket and you see people there going like, hey, nice breasts, right? And you see that enough of the time, you think, well, maybe it's okay to do that in the supermarket. And it isn't, right? And that's what we found, right? That's what I saw with my daughter. And then when my daughter went to Carr University, every other woman that was part of the program that she was in had exactly the same experience that she did, right? When she forgot the penis picture, I asked her to ask all of her friends who were 14 at the time. All of her friends had
Objection, Your Honor,
received.
hearsay.
All right, sustain.
And Mr. Behar, just keep your testimony, please, to things that you observed.
Thank you, I will do.
Thank you. And we got into this line of testimony from talking about the tension between growth and integrity. So what was the tension that you are describing here?
Yeah, the tension is all the people in the company working on more people using this product more times, more likes, more comments, more of everything, right? And the safety of a kid, right?
And going back to the teams that are working on product and growth, about how many engineers at Meta at the time you were there were developing and testing features related to growth?
At which time that I was?
I'm sorry, 2019 to 2021, if you know.
I think it must have been over 10,000 at least.
And when you were at Meta in this period between 2019 and 2021, did you observe any impact from placing integrity, your right hand under your left hand growth?
Yeah, the only things that would get support were things that had to do with what was called prevalence. But if you wanted to sort of understand harm, like this blog feature I talked about, or there was another example that I talked about and looked at about something that would help a girl deal with eating disorder content, a young girl dealing with eating disorder content, those things would be ideated by the team, but would not make it out the door. And so there was not any time, but I saw many examples of people with good ideas for good things that would reduce harm, who then, as they got reviewed and went through the pipeline, would get pushed down by the way the company was getting managed.
In your experience, did shifting the integrity team under capital G growth impact the ability of the integrity team to do its job?
Yes, absolutely.
Were you ever part of discussions with the growth team about what any of its different features and products would do to teen users on Instagram or Facebook?
That was part of the conversations that I had after the beef study was done.
And before that?
Yes. When we started sort of the bad experiences work, actually before that, so the other thing that got moved under this team was research. And so early on, I spoke to a researcher that was in charge of well-being at the company. And that's where I learned what I talked about in terms of addiction being a dirty word. And there was things that was difficult to do research on, and all of the challenges that she was experiencing trying to effectively work on well-being.
You talked about the development of Reels and TikTok. Between your tenures at Meta, between 2015 and 2019 when you returned, had there been a change in the competitive environment for Meta to your knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. Both TikTok and Snap became very popular, and that immediately triggered a very strong response on part of Facebook or Meta.
And what was that response?
All hands on deck to compete.
And did you see that all hands on deck have an impact on the work of the integrity team?
When I was working in the well-being team, they did not have enough people by far for all of the issues that they were dealing with. And I saw Adam Mosseri, who's the head of Instagram, appealing to everybody to work at Instagram, to go work on Reels, because that was a top priority.
And what impact did that have on teen safety in your experience at Meta during this time?
I think at the time, what was necessary is that if you say something's a priority and you're going to put a lot of people and direct a lot of people to it, you have to equally invest in safety about the harms that might come from doing that. And I did not see that happening.
And you talked about your daughter's experience and your return to Instagram. At the time you came back to Instagram in 2019, could teens address unwanted or inappropriate contacts by reporting the adult stranger who contacted them?
They could not.
And can you explain that?
Yeah. So when my daughter got a message saying, "Do you want to have sex tonight?" That's the first message she gets from a stranger. There was no option, right? She could click report, and you look at the list of options that were given, and there was nothing that matched her experience. So then she would pick a different option that was close to that. And, sometimes when you hear, bad reports, what they mean very often based on what I experienced and researched extensively during my first stint, it's precisely that. Is my daughter being like, or your daughter, somebody's daughter going like, yeah, this person, I know they're doing no good, it's bad. And trying to find a way of bringing that to the attention of the company. And there's no way she could do that, so all she could do was block them and then not say what was the case, why that was the case.
And I think you started to say that it often happened at the company that there wasn't a match between the report and the content. Can you explain that and what impact it had?
Yeah, so when one of the things that I was again responsible for is sort of when you submit a report and then sending that to the thousands of people that look at them or building the systems that look at the reports in the first place. And sometimes the action rate, so the number of reports that got taken down because it met the criteria, was very low. And that always, during my time as an executive, led to some investigation. And sometimes you found some really innocuous things, right? Like, turns out in Latin America, hate speech can be about football teams. And because for us, hate speech has a real specific meaning. But if somebody speaks hatefully about your team, then you're going to be like, that's wrong, and that's the option that you pick. So you fix that. You change the reporting tool to say, somebody's insulting something that's important for me, which we did. And then you explain hate better, and then you get things there. But also we found, and especially with teenagers, and this is the area where we did a lot of research, the amount of things that teenagers reported as extremely distressing that were clearly bad to a reviewer was very low, which means very simply that the job is, and the responsibility, in my opinion, of the company is, not to take down that content, but to help that teenager at that moment. And you can do that. You can build these tools that help the teenager at that moment. And so much of the harm, I would say 90-something%, and this was in my email to Mark Zuckerberg at the end of my second tenure, so much of the harm sits outside of that number, that prevalence number, that the content that you will delete in a really understandable way. And the company's job is to let a teenager tell them when it's happening, provide them immediate support in dealing with that, and then using that information so that other teenagers are not impacted by that.
Now, yesterday, Meta's counsel said that Meta disclosed the risks to teens like your daughter to parents. To your knowledge, based on your personal experience while working for Meta, did Meta disclose these kinds of safety risks to parents?
They did not.
And can you explain what risks weren't being disclosed?
So, for example, when my daughter created a public account, right, and I was with her doing that, I, as a very engaged parent with lots of expertise in the space, there's just this little public-private toggle, no explanation about the risks that might bring. So I was with her when she created the account and she hit public, and I didn't know that was going to bring predators to her door, people who attacked her to her door, people who would ask her to sell nude photos of herself when she was a teenager to her door, right? I believe that at that time, there should have been something that said, you know, you should know that when you create a public account, all this kind of stuff is going to happen. So as a parent, I could make an informed choice of helping my daughter navigate that. I had no idea, right, when she first asked me at 14 about going on Instagram, that she was going to get like unwanted sexual advances, like out of the gate, right, within the first few weeks with her private account, right? That's the kind of stuff that as an engaged parent should be right in front and center, should be clear, and it wasn't the case, right? And so I think there's many examples of these risks that you see firsthand as an engaged parent in my direct experience working with my daughter that were not disclosed.
And you talked about people reaching out to teenagers. Can you explain to the jury briefly how a teen might be contacted by somebody to request that they follow them, for instance?
Objection, Your Honor. Absent foundation about personal experience, this is calling for broad hearsay and opinion about teens generally.
All right. Counsel, I will ask if you could please lay a foundation for that.
Mr. Behar, in your experience at Meta, did you come to understand how adults might reach out to teens?
Yes, I worked on that and understand how those mechanisms work well.
Okay. And can you explain to the jury how an adult might reach out and ask a teen to friend or follow them?
Let me count the ways. So wow, sorry, I'm taking a moment because it's a list, and I will tell you I'm not going to be able to do the list as comprehensively as I would like to do it, but I will give some examples of that. So one example is you're sort of looking at things and you see a teen click a button you can follow very quickly. That's one way. Another one is you can search for something, and in the wall of things you get shown in search, you can click a follow. You can also search for accounts, and you can click a follow. Sometimes when you follow somebody, then you get recommended to follow kind of people, again, this growth thing. Here's other people that you might want to follow in the basis of that. I would say that one of the core things that they've worked on which there's a tremendous amount of features is sort of like this encouraging people to follow other people and ways of finding them, and a button to send a follow, a button to send a message. They're kind of everywhere, and they make it very easy and rewarding to do.
So did these different ways of connecting with kids introduce risks to kids on Meta's platforms?
Yes, absolutely.
And you talked about the incentives to kids. Were there design features that you were familiar with at Meta that incentivized kids to make these connections?
Yeah, in my experience with my daughter, again, I could see her, for example, really caring about the number of people that followed her car account and how many likes she got. And she would come and talk to me, hey, Dad, I did this video, and it got like 1,000 views, and she would be kind of excited about that. And so these counters, right? Imagine taking approval in high school and turning it into a number that you can have as a pin on your chest.
All right, some interesting testimony there in the Meta trial going on in New Mexico. You've been listening to a former Meta employee who worked for the company from 2015 to 2021, and he's talking about, ways in which, children can be targeted on these platforms. Interesting story he told about his daughter, where he said, his daughter loves cars. So she would post things about cars, about engines and things like that. And that these posts would be sent out to potential predators, to men that would make comments about her body and unwanted sexual advances, because he says that the algorithm was so good at connecting people to what they are interested in. So if you were some sort of pervert interested in young girls, somehow, even though she's talking about cars and engines, something that she's interested in, the algorithm would connect her to, one of these men, and so on and so on. So anyway, this is expected to be a trial that's going to go on for some time. Being sued, this is Meta along with Google's YouTube, saying that their platforms are addictive to children. We'll continue to follow that trial over the next several days or into the weeks, depending on how long it goes. Okay, so let's take a break, and we'll be right back with more. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. We've had a lot going on today. We've been all kinds of different directions. Senator Tim Kaine, Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, he just spoke at the Senate Democratic briefing just moments ago. Let's listen to what he talked about.
Thank you, Catherine. Hey, everyone. You're going to hear me say a lot of what Catherine just said about local law enforcement. But if you hear it from Nevada and you hear it from Virginia, you're going to hear it from 50 states. I was a mayor, as you know, Ron, you covered me. I had a city police force and a sheriff's office. I was a governor with the state police force and a Capitol Police, as well as 134 sheriff's offices and police forces. And all we are asking in the pillars that Chuck has described, in the roving patrols, uniform standards, and in secret policing, are basic SOP for local law enforcement agencies virtually everywhere. I was an elected official at the local level at a very challenging time. When I came into city council in Richmond in 1994, we had the second highest per capita homicide rate in the United States. So dealing with violent crime is something that I know about, and we successfully brought down violent crime dramatically. We didn't do it by breaking people's windows. We didn't do it by kicking people's doors down. We didn't do it by flooding the zone with masked agents. We didn't do it by shooting innocent people. We didn't do it by detaining children or shipping American citizens into jails and prisons who God knows where. We didn't do that. We did it by building relations within the community where they could have some more trust in law enforcement. In this situation, you're dealing with a group of people. The stats show that the arrests that have been done by federal law enforcement agents, less than 1 in 7 of the arrests are for people with any charge or conviction of any crime of violence. So if we can do battle against tough homicide rates and tough violent crime without masks and breaking people's windows and kicking their doors down, you can do immigration enforcement the right way, not the wrong way. And that's why I so strongly support these basic pillars. I mean, why should federal law enforcement agents be acting at a standard lower than the Ashland Town Police, or the Richmond Sheriff's Department? Americans and Virginians have an expectation of more, and that's all we've asked our Republican colleagues to agree to, and they ought to do it for the good of the country and for the good of their own constituencies. Chuck.
Thank you, Tim.
Senator Tim Kaine talking about some of the reforms that they would like to see with ICE. As you know, that ICE right now is only, the Department of Homeland Security is funded through February 13th, which is this Friday, as both sides of the aisle work on trying to come up with some reforms following the deaths of those two American citizens in Minneapolis, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, and their Senator Tim Kaine talking about some of the basic reforms that they would like to see. No roving ICE patrols, doing away with masks, and that the ICE agents be held to the same type of limitations and boundaries that you see with local and state law enforcement. All right, speaking right now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune. So let's hear what he has to say. We're going to go to that live.
I think most are supporters of, I certainly am, of the SAVE Act and what it attempts to accomplish. We have a similar law in my state of South Dakota that requires a showing of an ID in order to vote, and that's something that I think ought to be applied across the country. You ought to be able to prove that you're a citizen of this country in order to be able to vote. How we get to that vote remains to be seen.
It seems like a real challenge, though. I mean, especially when you have people saying you got to change the filibuster, something that you're not willing to do at this stage.
Well, it's not just me not being willing to do it. There aren't anywhere close to the votes, not even close, to nuking the filibuster. And so that idea is something, although it continues to be put out there, is something that doesn't have a future. So is there another way of getting there? We'll see, and that's the conversation we're having with our colleagues right now.
There's an agreement of DHS funding CRTs. They expect to push to separate the sub-agencies that you listed from the DHS funding itself.
We'll try and have, we'll have a vote on funding everything, because that was the bill that was negotiated and agreed upon by both Republicans and Democrats before the Democrats decided they weren't for it. But that bill is still available. It's the bill that was passed by the House of Representatives, and that will enable us to be able to vote to keep all of those agencies open. But I think in the end, the ideal solution here is to fund all of the agencies and departments that fall under the Department of Homeland Security, and make sure that that entire appropriations bill gets signed into law by the President.
Several members of the British political class, the royal family, have lost their positions as a result of them appearing in the Epstein files. That same level of penalty has not happened here in the United States, particularly with members of the Trump cabinet, Howard Lutnick in particular. Do you think there should be more scrutiny around Americans who have appeared in the Epstein files?
Well, look, I think it's going to be, ultimately what happens there is probably going to be up to the American people. And what I've been for, and I've been very clear about this from the outset, is full disclosure. Get the information out there. Let's have transparency. And I think that's being done. And so, for people whose names appear or in some context might be in the Epstein files, they're going to have to answer the questions around that, and I think the American people are going to have to make judgments about whether or not they think those answers are sufficient.
But should the Senate investigate that? Can I ask you about whether you expect or hope for endorsements in either Georgia or in Texas at this point, and if not, why not? I mean, Trump endorsements.
Right. Well, I think Georgia's probably a slightly different case. Texas, of course, is coming up. March 3rd is the primary. I think, as you all know, I'm supporting and endorsed and have been doing everything I can to help Senator John Cornyn. He's a very effective conservative senator for the state of Texas and does a lot of good things for our country on so many issues. And so we're all in there, but I don't know what the other endorsement situation may look like where the president's concerned. He makes his own decisions about that in his own time. But what I can tell you is we think that John Cornyn not only deserves to be reelected, but also ensures that Texas stays in Republican column when it comes to United States Senate, and frankly helps down ballot races in the House of Representatives as well.
What is your understanding of the White House proposal? I don't know if you've already met with Speaker Johnson, but are you meeting with him this afternoon?
Right.
Can you just kind of outline the Republican position here and the White House position in that counter proposal? And also, just with respect to time, how much more time do you think these negotiations need?
Hard to say exactly how much time, but probably more time than in the end of the week. The Democrats took a better part of a week and a half to get their proposal in, and now the White House has reacted to it, responded, submitted a counter proposal, which the Democrats are evaluating. And I think, like I said, I believe that that to me represents and demonstrates progress. I don't know, how much more time would be required, but I think it's fair to say that it's going to take some amount of time, and we should at least extend the continuing resolution to allow for that to continue. In terms of what's respective pieces and the individual proposals that have been made, I think you all know what the top level issues are. There are certain sort of red lines I think both sides have, things they're not going to negotiate on, but there are some things they are going to negotiate on, and that's where I think the potential deal space is here, and we ought to give both sides an opportunity to try and find it. But as I said earlier, we are very committed to making sure that federal law enforcement officers are able to do their jobs and to be safe doing them.
All right, Senate Minority Leader John Thune talking about the negotiations between both sides on getting the government or the Department of Homeland Security funded. That was one of the topics that they touched on. He also talked about the SAVE Act and their support for that, which would require people to show documents like a birth certificate or a passport to prove that they are citizens before they can register to vote. And that is something that Democrats are adamantly against. Chuck Schumer calling it Jim Crow 2.0. And also, you heard John Thune field a question about the Epstein files, wondering if Americans who show up names in the files should be held to the same standard that we've seen happened in London with some of the people who have shown up there, and speaking in particular Howard Lutnick, who is part of the president's cabinet. All right, I have been talking about the Walz news conference, and we want to go to that, and that is where he is talking about the economic impact of the ICE surge that's been going on in Minneapolis.
All of you and to the Minnesotans who are listening, it's a false choice here to say this is the price that you have to pay to do immigration enforcement. This is the price you pay when you do immigration enforcement the exact wrong way, where it's not targeted, it's not humane, it's not focusing on what the purpose of it is. And to call this collateral damage is, I think, even an understatement. It is, you hear this, it is catastrophic, again, for very suspicious or suspect results that came out of this. Very difficult to get numbers, very difficult to say what they accomplished doing this, when you could accomplish the idea of making sure we're removing the worst of the worst who shouldn't be here. You can do that without all of this. And I think now, as we've stressed time and time again, this needs to end. I think that message has been sent very clearly to the administration. And I think at this point in time, I wish that they would reconsider because of what they heard about this or what our school superintendents have said or what people have said. But the fact of the matter is I don't necessarily believe that. What I do know is they are cratering in support, that they are incredibly unpopular of what they're doing to people in this moment, and that is changing their posture. And what we need in Minnesota is them to do what we've asked them to do. Get out of here, do these investigations, stop this retribution campaign, but also to make sure we are simultaneously repairing the damage, working together, hearing you loud and clear, seeing what we can do through the state, seeing legislative what we can do, and then what we can do collectively as people, what we've seen on the streets who've gone out there and stood up for their neighbors. We need to take that same energy once these folks are gone and move that energy back indoors, as we said, to start spending money in Minnesota, start going out, make a conscious effort where you might not have. And I think what's so great about this city, and I say this, I get the opportunity to travel everywhere in every corner, but there's something surprising and wonderful every day. A new business, new things popping up, a new American dream that we've always fostered. Don't crush those. Do not crush those. Do not take that out. And I'm just, again, I'm going to remain hopeful at this moment, trusting but verifying. Every indication I have is that this thing is winding up on the front end. But I want to assure all Minnesotans, I want to assure the business owners, we don't see this as the end. Our work just starts now to start to clean some of this up. With that, we'll take some questions.
Governor Wells, can you share any more specifics from your conversation with Tom Homan and Susie Wiles about?
Yeah, as much as I can, and I'll be as candid as I can with all of you. I'm very careful with dealing with this administration, because I think if you say things and if they don't like it, I think we've seen it, the work that comes out. If the Venezuelan president hadn't danced, maybe I don't know how they think. So I'm being very careful. I'll let them make the announcements. We have been absolutely clear that they need to reduce these numbers back to the pre-surge level, which has been about 150. I have welcomed any help if they're sending experts dealing with fraud and tightening up systems. But as I said, none of those people are here, and the existing ones are gone. So they've assured us that I think we are moving towards that. I have made clear that this surge staying here, there's absolutely no upside for the administration for them to be here. But what I worry about is we are on the edge of catastrophe every single day with these untrained agents out there, with the danger that's out there, with folks who want to cause disruptions. And so every day that the situation that's out on the street continues, it's a very dangerous one. So, yeah, go ahead.
Have they followed through, in your opinion, with what they've said so far?
It's hard to say. It's hard for me to verify. I think, Senator Clark, others have said this. The mood of the folks who are closest to this on the streets say no, that they're still out there. Our school superintendents say no, they're still here, they're still following us. My guess is that they have reduced the numbers, as they said. I have no reason to not believe that Mr. Holman didn't reduce the 700. But all of you picked up very quickly, that still leaves 2,300 people on the streets, and that in itself is so destructive. I have to be candid with you. I think holding the state together and the focus and everything that's happening and all the grassroots leaders that are out there, they have days to get done with this. The patience is incredibly thin. And what that means is people are adhering to peaceful, resistance to this. They're honoring their First Amendment rights, but everybody's feeling this. I mean, this is catastrophic economic damage. Look, the president said it, and I'll hold him to this. He said, "This is my economy, I own it." You damn right you do. You damn right you own it in Minnesota, because this is what you created. But with that being said, I think by next week they're going to be significant where all of us can measure that. And then again, I hope that we are pivoting correctly on this to the recovery phase that is going to be ongoing. So. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say this. It would be my hope that Mr. Holman goes out before Friday and announces that this thing is done. And they're bringing her down, and they're bringing her down in days. That would be my expectation. Now, for all of you, the reason this is so difficult It is very important for the President of the United States to believe he wins every golf tournament, believes he wins everything. He views this as a zero sum. I mean, to me, it strikes at the core of my soul, seeing this as a win-loss. This is a loss for everybody involved of what's happened here. With that being said, they've got to believe they accomplished what they were going to accomplish. It's my understanding they think they did, that they think they have accomplished that. Now, I don't know where the numbers are. You're doing some good research on this, but at this point in time, I think what they realize is 2,300, a tenth of the entire border control for the United States being in this city is probably not accomplishing very much more than they've already done. So it's my hope. Tom?
The House Homeland Security Committee in Washington had a hearing today and heard from the acting director of ICE. He says things have de-escalated here. They've gone back to their original mission of targeting enforcement and not roving through neighborhoods looking for people.
Did he say that in the hearing?
Yes. Have you seen evidence of that, or have you?
Dinners for the week, ribeye.
All right, so that was just some of the news conference that Governor Walz had with some business owners talking about first of all, just the impact of ICE being there to begin with. You hear him saying that he is hoping that the drawdown happens very, very soon. And then there were some business owners who talked about the impact. One business owner spoke and said that sales at her small business have dropped 80%. Since the surge happened. All right, well, that's all we have time for today. Make sure you tune in to 13 News Now at 4, 5, and 6, and that is the next program that will be here on 13 News Now Plus.